Major breaking news from Washington. House Speaker John Boehner is resigning from Congress. He will give up his House seat at the end of October. He has been under extreme pressure from his party's right wing, including some efforts to depose him, to drop him from his speakership over the funding of Planned Parenthood in a bill to keep the government open. The government runs out of money, or runs out of the ability to spend, more correctly, next week, and a government shutdown is possibly on the horizon. Our Phil Mattingly has confirmed that Speaker Boehner is going to give up his seat. He joins us now from Washington. Phil, as I mentioned, a lot of pressure on the Speaker, efforts by the right wing to maybe force him from office, but nobody saw this coming, the idea that he would quit Congress altogether.
There were whispers. There have been whispers, really, Mike, from probably the last 2 years, that at some point, John Boehner, somebody with an established and accomplished congressional career, somebody who'd been through all of the leadership fights, all of the battles, had really reached the peak, would eventually decide he's just had enough. He's really been under constant pressure from the right wing of his party since he became Speaker in January of 2011. But again, Mike, to your point, this was a surprise. The timing was a surprise. The fact that he's going to do this at the end of October was obviously a surprise as well. I've been talking to congressional aides over the last 10 minutes since this news broke. The Speaker informed his conference this morning that this was going to be his decision. What he told lawmakers, according to aides, is he doesn't want to be the issue anymore. And I think one of the concerns amongst congressional leaders, and certainly within Boehner's team over the last couple of years, is the ire from conservatives about the direction of policy or the directions of legislation has been directed solely at Boehner, a very well traditionalized conservative, somebody who would not in any sense of the word be considered a Republican in name only, but has always been pegged as that as he's tried to, at some level, keep the government open and running, at some level, raise the debt ceiling, do things that conservatives have found kind of against their principles or against where they want their party to go. So John Boehner will step down, putting it into a congressional career that has been kind of a roller coaster, somebody who was in leadership, then out of leadership, then fought his way up through kind of the committee system, being a key leader on education reform during George W. Bush's administration, moving himself back into leadership when the Republicans were a minority in the House, and then becoming Speaker in 2011. He's an Ohio Republican, hails from Cincinnati, and guys, this is, I mean, there's no real words right here. His team, both inside Congress and outside Congress, on K Street and agencies, really has kind of run this town on the Republican side of things for the better part of the last decade. So his departure is not just kind of an earth-moving moment on Capitol Hill, but it's also an earth-moving moment amongst lobbying firms, amongst top businesses that work in this town. Yeah. Boehner's team is really all over the place, guys.
Joining us now from Potomac Research is Greg Valliere. Greg, what comes to in my mind immediately, the famous words of Louis XV of France, après moi, the deluge. Who could follow John Boehner that could hold Congress together, the Republican Party so fractured up there?
That's quite a question, Mike. I'd say the initial speculation would focus on Kevin McCarthy. I'm not sure he's ready for the job. I think there's one person who could unify the entire party, and that's Paul Ryan. But I think Ryan would rather work on tax reform. So it's a blank slate. Hard to say right now who replaces Boehner.
Greg, you have such a tapestry and culture of Republican and Democratic politics. I'm going to ask a question that I'm surprised I'm asking, but I think it's fair, folks, to ask it. Would you suggest that Speaker Boehner made this decision as he sat behind the Pope yesterday in Congress?
You know, Tom, that's the exact first thing that I thought of.
Yeah, it's the first thing I thought of.
Maybe he thought of bigger things in life and said to himself, do I really need this BS for the rest of the fall with all of these squabbling children? I think there's a connection between the Pope's visit.
Let's review this, please. This is a kid out of Cincinnati, out of Muller High School, which, Greg, you and I know when we were kids was a magical, almost mythical name of athletics. He was a linebacker, and there he is sitting with Joe Biden, who's just lost his son, behind His Holiness. And folks, I don't mean to speculate, but I'll be honest, Greg, you're the pro. It's the first thing I thought of when this shocking headline came across the Bloomberg.
Yep. So did I. Does he really want to mess with a continuing resolution later next week? I mean, it all sounds kind of petty after you've met with the Pope.